Wubba-lubba-dub-dub, Wisecrack, Jared here. You've probably noticed that the internet has blown up talking about the Season 3 premiere of Rick and Morty, The Rick Shank Redemption. But rather than focusing on the fact that Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon pulled off quite possibly the greatest anti-April Fool's prank of all time, everyone can't stop talking about that sweet
Szechuan sauce, and it's delicious.
Is the show doing something more profound than just invoking a totally random promotional condiment from the Clinton era?
This sauce is amazing.
Absolutely. And we're here to break it down for you. Welcome to this Wisecrack Edition on the philosophy of Szechuan sauce. We've talked about the existential themes in Rick and Morty before. Between Rick's creations despairing over their existence,
what is my purpose?
You pass butter.
Oh my god.
A persistent resentment towards one's creators,
Rick, you brought me into this world, a suffering abomination.
and Morty's unique life philosophy,
Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die.
they're not exactly hiding it.
Oh my god, no!
The show has also dabbled in a sort of relative to existentialism known as Absurdism. According to French philosopher Albert Camus, we live a cruel and absurd existence. Humans are cursed with seeking meaning in a universe that will forever remain silent. And the image of a guy pushing a boulder up a mountain for all eternity is the perfect metaphor for the human condition. In the spirit of Camus, Rick and Morty paints an absurd, meaningless multiverse. Rick, accordingly, has a long history of trivializing everything.
Nothing you do matters. Your existence is a lie.
He doesn't believe in things like love
What people call love is just a chemical reaction that compels animals to breed.
or tradition.
Well, scientifically, traditions are an idiot thing.
Rick's companionship with Morty is allegedly only a means for Rick to hide his genius brainwaves from the government. In The Rick Shank Redemption, we see similar themes. The arbitrary nature of our social systems,
Wait, who's paying me to yell at this guy?
I can answer that. For money.
mocking sentimentality,
We have infinite grandkids. You're trying to use Disney bucks at a Caesar's palace here.
and the pointlessness of it all.
Well, when you're not sure what you do for a living, you can make your own rules.
That we live in a meaningless world is an idea held by both absurdism and existentialism. But the transition from the end of Season 2 to the premiere of Season 3 really solidifies Rick and Morty as an absurd work.
He's a spy. Blow him up. I'm gonna go take a shit.
It does so by dangling meaning and hope in front of us, only to rip it to shreds. Something notable happens at the end of Season 2. Rick takes a break from his sociopathic shenanigans to have an authentic, heartfelt moment at Bird Person's wedding.
Bird Person is my best friend. And if he loves Tammy, well, then I love Tammy too. To friendship, to love, and to my greatest adventure yet, opening myself up to others.
But the show undercuts it when we learn that Tammy is a spy. What makes this part special is that Rick's flirtation with being a normal, caring person is undercut by an outside force, not his own cynicism. This is further explored at the end of the episode. After the family is forced into hiding from the Galactic Federation, Rick overhears the hardships he's created for them. In a moment of seeming anguish, Rick turns himself over to the Federation.
I'm doing what's right for the galaxy by calling you, so if we come back to Earth, can my family have a normal life?
And will likely spend the rest of his days in prison. In sacrificing himself, the finale suggests that Rick is wrestling with something he's never dealt with: living with meaning. Given complete knowledge of the meaninglessness of love, life, etc., he chose to do right by his family regardless. The cliffhanger teases a possible shift in the show's existential themes. This idea of creating meaning in a meaningless world is one championed by many existentialists, but firmly rejected by Camus. This crossroads for the show parallels a beef Camus had with a particular thinker, one who regularly contributes to my existential angst boners, Fyodor Dostoevsky. Camus writes that authors like Dostoevsky often propose absurd worlds with characters who understand the frivolity of life, only to chicken out and retreat to the comfort of meaning, like religion and shit. Dostoevsky's problem for Camus is that he offers a reply to the absurd, some form of meaning, whereas an absurd work, on the contrary, does not provide a reply. Existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre or Dostoevsky may realize the absurdity of existence, but their analysis fails by resorting to hope or trying to create meaning. Camus said of them, they deify what crushes them and find reason to hope in what impoverishes them. At the end of Season 2, we may have thought the show would make a similar retreat into meaning and sentimentality, but with the release of The Rick Shank Redemption, we now know that this is not the case at all. Instead, it doubles down on the absurd. Not only was Rick's imprisonment a ploy,
Why would Rick Sanchez turn himself in?
Well, I'm just a dumbass bug, but it's possible Rick knew he'd be interrogated at this facility where we not only keep our most wanted, but our most sensitive
data.
But the show replies to our prospect of a humanized Rick with a journey that will be darker than ever.
Oh, it gets darker, Morty. Welcome to the darkest year of our adventures.
And if just to fuck with us even more, much of Rick Shank's comedy is not derived from joking about life's meaninglessness like in previous episodes, but rather the biggest jokes are largely derived from our attempt to draw meaning.
Where are we going?
To the day it all began and ended. The moment that changed everything.
For example, when Rick explores the memory of him creating the portal gun, we learn that Beth and Diane were brutally murdered, turning Rick from a family man to a deranged loner scientist. Your typical tragic Walter White-style anti-hero origin story that would give meaning to his madness. This baits the audience to empathize with Rick. But, joke's on you, it's all a ruse.
True, but you can alter anything you want about a totally fabricated origin story.
So it's not just that Rick and Morty evades meaning. The writers seem to get a perverse joy in playing with our desire to search for hope and meaning, as if Camus was making his point in the style of an internet troll. In another instance, Rick saves Earth from the Brave New World-inspired Galactic Federation. We may be tempted to say that Rick did this for a greater good, to liberate Earth from their alien oppressors. However, Summer's comment suggests that the New World Order doesn't sound too good either.
Oh my god, Nancy says they're drawing and quartering aliens in the school courtyard, and it technically counts as patriotism.
In other moments, the idea that Rick cares about Morty and Summer is also toyed with.
We have your Morty and Summer!
First, Rick seems to care as he rushes to rescue Morty and Summer after learning they're imprisoned by the Council of Ricks. Rick then exhibits a casual disregard for Summer's life in his standoff with another Rick.
Why not shoot through her? The risk to me is minimized if I wait for you to shoot her, which I'm encouraging you to do.
But we learn it was all part of a well-crafted strategy. Finally, the whole Rick caring theory disintegrates again as he explains he only saved them so that Beth doesn't kick him out of the house.
Your mom wouldn't have accepted me if I came home without you and your sister, so now you know the real reason I rescued you.
Which finally brings us to the Szechuan sauce. Rick isn't motivated by family or justice or love, but only that Mulan Mcnugget sauce. The show, undercutting even the most promising attempt to give Rick a sense of morality, doubles down by suggesting his entire series arc will be his quest for a forgotten promotional food item.
That's what this is all about, Morty. That's my one-armed man. I'm not driven by avenging my dead family, Morty. That was fake. I'm driven by finding that McNugget sauce. I want that Mulan Mcnugget sauce, Morty.
But is this really what drives Rick? No. The only thing that Rick's love of Szechuan sauce means is that it means nothing. The quest for Szechuan sauce isn't creating meaning, it's a reflection of the absurdity of being driven by, well, anything. Given the utter void of meaning in the world, why not dedicate yourself to an absurd quest for plum-flavored McNugget sauce? Why not spend 9 whole seasons doing it?
If it takes 9 seasons.
Why not 97 years?
97 more years, Morty.
The quest for McNugget sauce is meaningful only in that it's a joke about meaninglessness. Camus says that any figure who understands and finds happiness in the pointlessness of it all is an absurd hero. The absurd hero must not only be happy with life's absurdity, but fully comprehend the cosmic indifference that surrounds him. He calls it lucid indifference, and this all seems a lot like Rick.
And these babies just saved this lame-ass party!
A man whose knowledge of the vast multiverse, where everything terrible and good can and has happened, defines his existence.
What about the reality where Hitler cured cancer, Morty?
A man who reduces our basic morals to genetic programming. A man who, in spite of being able to accomplish anything, only yearns for Szechuan sauce. There's one important difference between Camus' absurd hero and Rick Sanchez. Absurd heroes find happiness in the absurd, but as we know, Rick is in great pain.
Morty, do you know what wubba lubba dub dub means? In my people's tongue, it means, I am in great pain.
Maybe Rick's actual arc will not be to give more shits or to be nicer to his family, but to actually enjoy the absurdity of it all. So is the April Fool's joke the fact that they actually dropped the episode exactly when they said they would?
Tune in to Rick and Morty Season 3 in like a year and a half.
Or is the real joke the prospect of Rick finding meaning, aka the Szechuan sauce? Essentially, if you thought Rick's self-sacrifice was an indication of a belief in family, justice, or anything for that matter, you've been had.
There's a lot more where that came from, too.
Wubba lubba dub dub, Wisecrack. And to check out our other Rick and Morty videos, click on any of the links here. Peace.